Hey, how about you, everybody? Welcome into this week's edition of the Auburn Live Recruiting Show. I'm your host, Jeffrey Lee, Senior Recruiting Editor for Auburn Live on 3. If you're not a member of that site, you're absolutely missing out. Still time to get a great deal on an absolute product, $29.99 until September. Jump on it. We will talk as much about recruiting today as we possibly can. It is that period, but we still have news. I'm joined, as I always am, of Mr. Jhead, Mr. Keith Niebuhr, Mr. Cole Pinkston. How about you, fellas?
Yes, sir.
How about you?
Hey, how about you, Keith?
How about you, everybody?
Hey, there it is.
I got this great setup. I got tired of sitting there with the world map in the background, so I got the Auburn logo, but I'm having to stand up. I got the microphone here. I feel like Phil Collins. I got my computer here. It's like I get to start drumming away, singing. I mean, y'all want to hear some Genesis? You just let me know. I'm taking requests.
Our listeners don't know about Phil Collins.
They know about Mike Tyson, though.
I got the headphone. I can start singing, man. Jeff, you got requests?
Maybe not Genesis, but Phil Collins, I think so.
Yeah, we can do a remake of The Hangover real quick. We just bring Mike Tyson in and knock out Key. You know what I mean?
Hey, before we get started, folks, I want to remind everybody, I know everybody's looking for a realtor in or around Auburn, Opelika, Lee County, Alabama. We've got just the person for you, Miss Jessica Andrews with eXp Realty. Give her a call, 334-704-4442. She does residential property. She does investment properties. She is a 5-star realtor, as Mr. Jhead said. Give her a call, Jessica Andrews with eXp Realty, 334-704-4442. Tell her we sent you. All right, fellas. Hey, I'll tell you what. We've got some news from the road. Cole went on a little venture on Wednesday earlier this week. We are recording on Thursday. Keep that in mind as you listen throughout the show. So if you hear yesterday or tomorrow, you know what day it is we're referring. Cole, yesterday on Wednesday, you talked to us about your day.
Yep. Well, I went by Tuscaloosa County. Wasn't able to see Kevin Riley, the running back target who I think is really high on Auburn's board from everything that I have heard on Auburn.
Walker White certainly thinks so, doesn't he?
Oh, yeah. Well, it's pretty much common sense, but every name that he named, there's a very good reason why he said those particular names, okay? Nobody was just thrown in there. Those were all
his own evaluations.
Yeah, oh yeah, he's already doing no. I mean, I think he knows some of these guys. He's probably met them before, but he knows exactly who the top targets are for Auburn. Let's put it that way. Kevin Riley was named, so I went by unable to see him. He had some things going on, but learned a little bit about him. His mom works for the University of Alabama, so that's something. He's got other ties to the university as well. I think maybe cousins or something that went there, and he's got a lot of ties there. It's going to be hard to get him away from Alabama.
It sounds like it.
Yeah, I mean, Auburn's going to battle here because they think he's worth it, but I think it's going to be really hard to beat Alabama as it stands today. But like I said, they're going to try to be in this one, and I'm interested to see how that goes. So from there, I went to Parker High School in Birmingham.
Beeman.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, Jeremiah Beeman, the home of Big Jeremiah Beeman, JB, they call him over there. Love that guy, man. He's always a great interview, real classy guy. Loves to talk. I helped him fix everything on his profile and everything with that. So my impressions from that, Auburn absolutely in that one with the big boys like Alabama, Clemson, Georgia, Tennessee. It sounds like those are sort of the 5, but I mean, he is adamant about, look, I've been to all these places, but I have not even begun to narrow things down in my head. Everybody's on the table right now for me. In-state, out-of-state, doesn't matter. I'm interested in everybody. And he said, like, I might do a top 10 or 12 in, June.
Nah, don't do that.
So just, he's not ready yet. He's not ready to start narrowing things down. But Auburn, Jeremy Garrett, man, really making a big impression on him. He said Jeremy Garrett calls his parents more than he calls him. So,
hey, real quick on Beeman, and I'm going to listen as I go turn off this ice machine. Where do you see him, Cole?
Everywhere. I think he's an everywhere player on the defense.
On the D-line.
Yep. Any place. You can put him inside, you can put him on the edge. He does it both in high school. I think he can do it both in college. I've seen him live in action. I thought he was dominant in the game I saw him in. It was a playoff game against against Clay Chalkville, who was loaded, who I
Mm-hmm.
went to after Parker, by the way. He's a dominant player. I think he can play just about anywhere. Reminds me a lot of Keldrick Falk on the last cycle. Very similar type bodies, similar type players. I actually think that Beeman is probably more suited as an interior guy
Agreed.
than Keldrick is in the long term. So I love Jeremiah Beeman. I think he's one of the top guys in the state. I think he's one of the top guys in the country, and there's a reason why all those schools want him. They also have two young guys. I talked to those guys. Naeem has been offered.
Yeah, I remember him. A matter of fact, he was at a game last year, and I think Auburn offered him shortly thereafter.
Yes. And
Did you meet Coach L?
Coach
He
L.
trains all those guys up there. He probably wasn't at the school. He's a trainer up there in that area, Hueytown.
They told me
Parker,
about him though.
Minor, yeah,
he's a big deal.
Yeah.
And speaking of which, I believe he trains Jason Jones as well.
He does.
Plays for Auburn, and him and Jeremiah Beeman are close.
Very.
Like, Jason Jones like a mentor to me, man. I actually didn't know that going in. Maybe that was already known, but I didn't realize that. So, I hung out with Coach Warren over there, the head coach at Parker. So, got to know him pretty well, and he's real high on his two young players, Naeem Alford and I can't think of the other guy's name.
Alford is he's a sophomore, right? He's 2025.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I remember seeing him at. Okay, Parker was one of our area rivals, Cole.
Really?
Back to those Minor days.
We were in an area with Minor, who is is a county school. It's not a city school. Birmingham, Parker is a Birmingham school. Inslee is a Birmingham school. West End is a Birmingham school. That was our area.
Gotcha.
And now, is that where the phrase minor sports started from?
Minor sports. Yeah, we were minor.
I'm just
but I mean that was playing basketball. That was the most fun I had of any of the three sports. Playing basketball, going to Inslee, Parker, and West End.
I can only imagine.
And listen.
I want to see some video clips, man.
They loved me. I was Opie over there. Everywhere I went, they called me Opie.
Were you a shooter, Jeffrey?
No, I was a disher.
Okay,
I was a defender.
Distributor. He made other people better.
But you know what? My coach actually told me about 5 years ago. I ran into him sadly at a funeral for Rusty Riley, one of my good friends, and but he said he told my parents. He said, I went back and I looked, and if Jeffrey scored under 10 points, we'd lose. If he scored 10 points or more, we'd win. He just wouldn't shoot. He said, "How would you like to know that your future as a coach depended on this man right here?" Not very good.
Jeff, you must have been a pretty decent athlete, though. Basketball and baseball.
And
football. Play any other sports?
Hey, this is my claim to fame as a 6A school, which was the largest at Minor. Minor was the largest 6A. I was the only person in that 6A school to play and start all three major sports.
Oh,
I didn't even get nominated for most athletic. I was class clown. Can you believe that shit?
Maybe.
I just picture you walking into class or at the lunchroom and just pointing at the girl you wanted, and let's go, let's roll.
Well, yeah, that was
that kind of athletic stud level,
Yeah. No, I'm feeling intimidated right now. Actually,
there you go.
I mean, I played high school golf. I mean, Jeff's out there.
Did you
scoring touchdowns and knocking the snot out of people, getting rebounds, putting up triple doubles, and
I was a 5-1 guy myself in basketball. 5,000 a fight a night. That was pretty much
I had a tech and I was following. Yeah, there you go. All right, back to Parker. Jeremiah Beeman, Naeem Alford, the other young kid.
Jordan Crawford is the other guy.
Oh yeah. How does he spell Jordan?
Jourdin.
Yeah. I knew it was something unique.
I don't know, between the three of those guys, I don't know if they're missing an offer. I mean, we went through the offer list yesterday. All three of them have, Alabama, Georgia. They all got them. Okay, they got all the offers, and they all look the part too. I mean, I asked Naeem. He said, "Man, coach." Even this coach was like, "Coach Cadillac just loves him, man. He just loves him. He hits him up every day."
Oh, is that the little running back?
Yeah, you know what? I think he's a DB.
Okay,
but Cadillac is the area recruiter.
Yeah, you're right.
Birmingham, and he's taking an interest in him. So, he's kind of got the funny class clown like personality, where Jeremiah Beeman and Jordan Crawford are laid back, kind of reserved. But good guys. Enjoyed my time with them. I think Auburn's got a shot with all of them in the long run. So
to me, Jeremiah Beeman is one of the top 5. We all hate to use the word must gets, but need to get for Auburn, in my opinion, in this class.
Statement get.
He's not only he doesn't only play similarly to Keldrick Falk. I think the recruitment is going to be similar.
I completely agree. That's exactly who I thought of. That's the kind of guy, making a statement by getting this kid.
Yep.
And I love I'm sorry, Cole. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I just want to say I love the comp on Keldrick. I think that Jeremiah Beeman plays with more power. Keldrick's more athletic, but overall body type, I think you're dead on.
Just so you know, the game that I went to, it was a first-round playoff game between Parker and Clay Chalkville. Clay Chalkville was supposed to win that game. They didn't. Parker upset them in the first round. The score was 7-6. That was the score. It was a defensive battle, and Jeremiah Beeman controlled that game. He had help, but, man, they weren't going past him. That wasn't going to happen in that game. And it was pretty much the same on the other side, too.
Speaking of Clay Chalkville, you went to Clay Chalkville as well, and there's another connection there. Alan Pridmore, who was my football coach, was once the coach at Clay Chalkville. I don't think he's there anymore.
I'm not sure. I did talk to a couple guys there, coaches, but, man, talk about a school that's loaded right now. They got so many players. I talked to
Mario Craver.
I talked to Mario. I'll have more on that on Thursday today, whenever this comes out.
D'Angelo Barber.
DJ Barber. Oh, yeah. Yes. Man, he
my
really
favorite.
You really like him, Jhead?
Love that guy as a wheel inside linebacker. I mean, he plays the game the way it's supposed to be played. So
he does.
Are we talking 6 foot 215?
Yeah, I think he's probably that's about right, Jeffrey. I think he's pretty solid too.
I think his measurements out of Alabama, they posted him from where he visited them was 6'1", 215 was what he came in at. So probably a little bit bigger than a Zacoby McClain. I think Zacoby played his senior year down in Valdosta at about 195. So you're talking 15 to 20 pounds heavier, about the same kind of frame, but plays that downhill type game. And he takes on guards and tackles at that size like you wouldn't believe. I mean, like a rolling ball of butcher knives, as Kevin Steele used to say.
Yeah, right.
So
he's not that lengthy guy. He's a little bit more,
compact.
Compact is a good word. But he sort of reminds me of KJ Britt, the way he's built.
Oh,
kind of that, just
he's
that
a thumper.
sturdy, kind of that big neck, big shoulders guy.
Oh,
so, but
like
man,
Keith.
He was like Keith.
Yeah, what we got saying?
Yeah, definitely like Keith.
That's old flat.
But no, sort of that KJ Britt, like maybe Takeo Spikes look, just kind of jacked up, big kid, and he's going to have some power when he hits you. So he was a great interview too. I mean, man, he just loves Auburn. Every time he talks about Auburn, he lights up.
Did you put in a prediction for him?
No, I haven't. I put one in for Joseph Phillips from Tuskegee.
Okay. How you feeling on Barber? Because what I've seen, I would just from what I've read and heard, I would think Auburn might be the team to beat.
You know what? I think they are. My hesitation with putting in a pick on Barber is that there's so many good linebackers in this class, and I don't know exactly how many they want to take yet or how they want to sort it out between inside backer and jack backer and all these different types they have now. So I'm hesitant because I just want to see where he stands with Auburn first.
Fair enough. He is the kid that got an offer at Junior Day, at the big Junior Day.
Yes. Mm-hmm. But if Auburn pushes for him, I really think they're the team to beat, like you said.
I think that's fair, Cole. There's a lot of good linebackers. Hell, there were a lot of good linebackers at the Junior Day. I mean, there were 10 guys, maybe 10, at least 5 takes guys, and where you wonder where these guys fit on the board and priority list. And are we going to take him before we take him? Are we going to take him if we know we can't get him? It's a lot of variables there. But you got to like if Auburn wants him, where they sit.
I would have to say that at this point, and from talking to him yesterday, from observing the way things are going with the linebacker board, I think he's up there. I really do. I just don't think they've made a final decision like, hey, this is our guy. We're going heavy in on him. I think they're going to make sure that they at least don't have a chance with some of those other top guys first, or do their due diligence with everybody before they push for him.
You don't think he's so you're saying middle linebacker, whereas DeMarcus Riddick would be more of that jack guy?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay,
he's definitely an inside guy, Barber, because he's not lengthy. He's not really built to come off the edge and try to get separation. He's more of a guy that's going to be downhill, like Jhead said. And he's actually pretty fast sideline to sideline too. So
he is good sideline to sideline speed. And whether he plays the wheel or whether he plays the mic, it's kind of irrelevant. He's got an inside type body frame. But it would probably depend, like Cole said, does he fill out like KJ did, or does he stay a little bit on the smaller side, sub 220, and probably play the opposite side?
Right.
That would be a growth and projection thing. But you're right, Jeffrey. I mean, you nailed it when you talked about the number of linebackers we had in on junior day. Whether it was Devin Smith, Joseph Phillips, our boy from Chilton County, Keith's favorite linebacker, the Graham kid from up there at Woodyard Academy.
Miles,
you know what I mean?
Miles, yeah.
And then you had Bradley Shaw come in the next day. So, you're talking 6-7 deep just on who visited campus in the month of January, right? Or the month of February.
Yep.
So I'm with you, Cole. It's hard to say who you're going to jump on right now. The only person I feel like they're going to push for is Joseph Phillips. They're going to get one in the boat.
Yes.
And then I think they may reassess during the spring eval period and kind of get a better feel for who projects where. Like Jeffrey said, all right, on the high end side, are we in on this guy? Can we compete here, or are we wasting our time? You know what I mean? Do we need to move to the next player on our list?
Really, when you look at that linebacker board, we know for a fact there's at least one guy they would never turn away no matter how many numbers they got, and that's DeMarcus Riddick.
Agreed.
He's at the top. And then Joseph Phillips is right there with him. But they know that he's uncommitted. They know he's right in the backyard. They know they probably need to get him in the boat sooner than later because he's got all these schools coming after him, and he really likes Auburn. So that's kind of the process they're working with right now.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I learned about DJ Barber. He wants to be a nursing major, and Auburn has a pretty good program for that.
Man,
so
that never hurts.
No.
There was a linebacker, Shaq Quarterman, that picked Miami over Auburn 7-8 years ago from Jacksonville, and he wanted to be. It was Auburn and Miami nursing programs competing for the guy. I think he made it to the NFL. So yeah, that's actually been a thing, Jeff.
Wow. Hey, shocking. Real quick, when we're talking about linebackers, we talked a little bit about this last week, I believe, but in this defense, we're looking at a middle linebacker.
Yes.
We're looking at a will linebacker who's going to line up on the weak side, and then you've got a jack who can rush the passer or drop back in coverage.
Right.
Well, and also a Sam, but the Sam and the star are interchangeable. So the star is your nickel, the Sam is your strong side linebacker. So contingent on what formation you're in or what alignment you're in defensively. So if you're like in a goal line package or you're in a short yardage package, you may have a Sam in the game. So you're looking at four linebacker sets.
So if you're taking out your nickel, you're putting in a Sam.
You're taking out your star.
Guy from Leeds, Javier Mitchell, remember him?
Yeah.
He sort of did that on the goal line for Auburn at one point where he was an interchangeable linebacker and they put him in on short yardage. That's similar to what you would see them doing with that Sam backer. And they can plug him there, or he can just be a nickel. And your nickel, maybe Keontae Scott, would become your Sam backer if you were in a pinch, if you needed that extra help. Same thing with the jack. You just want to be interchangeable. You want to, without having to sub, because you can't always sub.
No, so a guy who can do both.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Owen Papo would have been perfect for that role. Honestly.
Finishing up at Clay Chalkville, Cole, I know that Kamari McClellan is also there, if I'm not mistaken, the quarterback, who I think Brian Harsin and those guys offered. I don't think this staff is after him.
Yeah, and
would that be fair to say?
I think
especially now with Walker White.
Yeah, I think you're right. I didn't talk to Kamari. Auburn's pretty much got their guy at quarterback. I don't think they're really looking around anymore, and I don't think they were too high on Kamari either.
I don't either.
Of course, he's got some good offers. He'll end up somewhere pretty good. So And he's not bad. He's a good athlete at quarterback. Yeah, he's got to improve. He's got to improve as a passer, but he's a good athlete at quarterback. There's no doubt. A lot like Robbie Ashford coming out of high school.
I was told about McCamari, and I'm not shitting on the dude. He's good, but somebody said his offer list is better than his film.
I would agree with that.
I think he's done really well in 7-on-7 settings, and that's helped him in the game. Like in the game I saw him in, he had trouble because he was being pressured all the time, for one. For two, it was just one of those physical games where they were running the ball more, and that hasn't helped him much, not being able to throw as much. So,
and he's one of those ceiling kind of players, Cole, where the potential of what he could be is not where he is right now. It's not even close.
Yeah.
So, you know what I mean? Like the evaluation on him that I actually have, or what I have heard that other coaches have on him, is maybe he's a guy you take in a 2-quarterback class as a project, somebody that you can build up. And or does he fall to someone that's got a real history, doesn't need that top shelf quarterback in this class, but they want a filler. They want a guy that's in between two guys. They're trying to stack a quarterback room, but you don't need that 4 or 5 star that's going to be potentially hurting you in the next class.
Right.
He's going to kind of slot to like a Louisville or something like a Scott Satterfield.
But still someone
quarterbacks. Go ahead.
Still someone to monitor. Yeah, no problem. Still someone to monitor because we don't know what kind of attrition we're going to see at Auburn over the next 10 months, right? Who's going to lose the job? Who's going to leave? Can Auburn stack quarterbacks? It's easier said than done, right?
Keith,
right. So if somebody leaves, maybe there's a 2 QB class.
I was going to say
on the horizon. Do
you think right now it's Walker White or do you think Auburn could?
Well, I think it's just him, Jeffrey, and I think y'all agree right now.
Sure.
But again, you got Holden Gerner. We don't know whether he's going to win the job or be fourth coming out of, going into fall practice. We don't know. We don't know whether they're going to pick up a transfer. We think they are. And does that transfer have 1 year or 2 years or more? And so all these unknown variables can impact things. Robbie Ashford, he started the last half of the last season. He thinks he's the starter. He expects to be the starter. Well, if he's not the starter come next September, the first week of September, that kind of changes that whole dynamic there. So right now 1, but potentially 2 later on. We'll see.
Yeah. Jeffrey wanted to point out too, and then I think I'll be done with my road trip here notes. I'll have more on this later, but Mario Craver, receiver from Clay Chalkville, I believe he's a 4-star with us.
Mm-hmm. He is top 10 player in the state.
There you go. Very good player. I saw him last year at the Under Armour camp, which is about 2 weeks from now.
Is he smaller, Cole?
Oh yeah, he's a small guy.
He's a slot guy.
He's a slot guy, but he's dynamic. He's a very good player. Again, I'll have more on this later, but Marcus Davis is huge here. And I don't know if y'all remember, but Mario was the last guy to leave Auburn's junior day. And that's because he told me he was having a very long conversation with Marcus Davis that opened his eyes a little bit about Auburn. So I thought that was very interesting. Also, there is an Alabama commit at Clay Chalkville. His name is Jalen Mbakwe.
Yeah.
He's a 5-star guy, one of the top guys in the country. I think Auburn's sort of in this one here. I'm not giving them much of a chance at the moment, but I do think he's going to visit in the spring, and I think that Auburn is a spot he could use an official visit for too.
He's the number 1 player in the state. Is he right? I believe On 3 has him as the number 1 player in Alabama. Hey, I do want to say to our listeners and stuff, On 3 will be updating their 2024 rankings at the end of this month. They haven't ranked these guys since October, so they're going to be getting a big update. You guys like Joseph's is the guys that don't have rankings but have good offer lists. You're going to see their rankings updated, and we'll see a rejuvenated list at the end of this month. OT from Clay Chalkville.
Yes. Jaquan McCroy, who I put a 3-2-1 out on him this morning, and as soon as we're done here, I'm going to have the interview up with him. And look, I love that guy, man. He tells you exactly where, hey, Auburn's number 2.
Behind?
Alabama.
He wasn't sure if Arkansas or Oregon.
Whoa.
Arkansas and Oregon, he named those three, right? Auburn, Arkansas, Oregon. That's who's recruiting me the most. Those are the schools I'm paying attention to the most.
Yeah. Well, Oregon's going to have a new offensive line coach. That's going to change that. I don't think we're going to see Oregon recruiting offensive linemen in the South like we've seen in the last 12 months, quite frankly.
If that's the top three, you got to feel pretty good early.
I don't know for sure. He didn't necessarily say that's my top three, but he said those are the ones hovering around there. But he said Auburn's definitely number 2 and didn't really want to give me number 1, if that makes sense. He kind of danced around that. But Arkansas and Oregon, it's one of those two, I believe. But the good news here, even though Auburn's not number 1, Auburn really almost wasn't in the top 5 before he visited for Junior Day. And when I talked to him at Junior Day, Auburn's number 2 or 3. I said, okay, well, were they in the top 5 before? He goes, not really. He said, so this really helped them. I talked to him again, and he goes, yeah, I mean, they're number 2, no doubt. So they're moving up here. And just talking to other people, too, it doesn't feel like he's going to go to Oregon. It just, it seems like he's a guy that appreciates being an in-state guy and being close to home. So that would maybe hurt Arkansas, too. What I'm trying to say is I feel like Auburn's going to have the best chance of anybody in the end on this one. That's my gut.
You're just always concerned if you're Auburn. When does Bama swoop in and throw out that offer? Because they're in that position where they can come in the last minute and offer a kid, and the kid doesn't hold it against them. If Auburn does that, we got the high school coaches calling us up bitching every week. You know what I mean? And
the fans want to know why Auburn didn't get in on him earlier.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, if we would have got in on him earlier.
He is a good-looking, big kid.
OT?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, Auburn's very high on this kid. Oh, shit,
he said he was
really?
6'8", yeah.
Great. Auburn's in with it.
When I had to take the picture of him, I had to do this right here.
Oh.
I had to do this number because
you're 4'11" with cleats on.
Right. So I really I had to get on a ladder to,
I'm telling you, the Christmas, man.
You guys talked about all the linebackers at Junior Day. What about all the offensive tackles at Junior Day?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Chase Malamala, this guy, John Wayne Oliver.
Yeah.
John Wayne Oliver. And so I think if you're an Auburn fan, that's promising. I mean, look, visits are just visits. Remember, at times the last couple of years, people get all excited over a kid visiting one time. Well, at Boise State, if you got a kid on campus once, you're probably going to get them. Different dynamic at Auburn, but no, I mean that kid's a monster. He's massive.
And I agree with you, Keith. You have to be worried about Alabama coming in on a guy like that. I'll say, and I added this, because in our 3-2-1, we give some intel, and then I give some strengths of his game and a weakness as well.
I love that feature, Cole.
To me, the weakness with him is he is very raw, guys. He doesn't really know the position he's playing yet. He doesn't really know the ins and outs of it. He's just a raw, powerful, big guy with really good feet to be as big as he is. So there's so much there. It's just going to take a minute for him to get going. Does Alabama want a guy like that? That's the question. They like proven guys. They like guys that are ready to roll. I don't think he's ready to roll when he gets to college. I think he's not going to take long, but he's not quite ready when he gets there because he's got so much to learn. And that's just offensive line in general. And there's not many freshman offensive linemen in the SEC, which, by the way, there was a freshman SEC offensive tackle that started every game last season, and that was at Ole Miss. His name is Micah Pettis, and that's who Jake Thornton compares him to. And he says you could be a guy like Micah Pettis. So that was another thing that's got – I mean, there's a lot of factors here for Auburn, it feels like to me.
Feels like Jake Thornton's really on the ball, I have to say.
Yeah, he is.
When he charted where he visited in the spring, in that footprint, but areas that he knows. I think he's from Georgia, correct? So he knows the Carolinas, which are always putting out offensive and defensive linemen. He knows Georgia. And then obviously he knows Alabama and Mississippi now. And those are the main states where you're going to get offensive linemen, quite frankly. I mean, Florida's not the greatest state. It feels like he's got a good plan. strategic plan. We'll see. He got a lot of kids on campus January 28th. That's for sure.
Yep.
I think he's from the foothills. I think he's from North Georgia, somewhere up there.
Toccoa, right about where, not too far from where Ty Cobb, the great Ty Cobb, was from.
Is that right?
You got it.
Yeah.
Toccoa River.
I tell you what, another former Auburn offensive line coach from the state of Georgia used to love offensive linemen like what you just described, Cole. A guy by the name of Hugh Nall. He loved guys who didn't have a lot of experience, that didn't have what he would call bad habits.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because they're that raw clay. You can teach them exactly what you want or expect to that position. But those were the kind of guys he was quick to take a defensive lineman, remake their body and put them in the offensive line room, or find a raw offensive lineman, bring them in, develop them. A guy like a Marcus McNeil that was more of a basketball player than he was a football player his senior year. So, look, I've watched McCroy's tape 5 times over, and you're right. Technically speaking, he's not anywhere he needs to be, but athletically, there's not a lot he can't do from that right tackle position, Cole. I mean, he's going to be an absolute man-child before it's all said and done.
And by the way, you mentioned Mario. Oh, go ahead, Cole.
I just want to say again, I just love his honesty. He's just straight up about things, and I love that. I love guys like that. Go ahead, Keith.
Yeah, well, you mentioned Mario Craver as a slot receiver type. I talked to Georgia slot receiver commit Niebuhr last night. You want me to dig into that, Jeff? Okay.
Yeah.
This is a guy that visited for Jhead Junior Day. Now, he's from Moultrie, Georgia, which I drove through last week, and I think Cole's going to be there in the near future. I mean, that's Georgia Bulldog country. That's Ray Goff territory. That's where the great Ray Goff was from. And so they've got 2 guys committed to Georgia. Niebuhr, 5'10" slot receiver, number 49 recruit in the country. And then Landon Thomas, a 4-star tight end commit for Georgia. And both those guys were on the Walker White most wanted list, okay? Yeah. But Niebuhr, elite, dynamic guy, plays in that region of doom, they call it, down in South Georgia. And I think Colquitt County's still in it. Let me double check that. So he visited for Junior Day. He loves Marcus Davis. They're about the same size. Actually, he may be bigger than Marcus. And he said, this guy's trying to get to know me on a personal level, and he's high energy. He says, I love that Marcus Davis, and the Auburn staff are high energy people, because I'm a high energy I'm a high energy person, and that's who I want to be around. So it went well. I mean, look, he's still committed to Georgia. Let's not kid ourselves here. It's going to be difficult, right? It always is, flipping from the team that's won 2 straight national championships. But they got him on campus, his first ever visit. He loved it. He got there early. He got the red carpet treatment. He says, I don't know if I'm supposed to say this, but, I got the special tours and all that stuff. Remember, there were all these kids out there waiting. He wasn't waiting. He was inside. He was getting everything done, And they had all the other guys out there sitting with us. Probably the worst hour of their lives. They're having to talk to us, but so he enjoyed it. 8.5 out of 10 on the visit. He wants to go back. He liked meeting Hugh Freeze. Said he was chill. That's a word we get a lot when we talk to kids about Hugh Freeze. He's just chill, easy going. I've seen him. We've all seen him interacting with recruits, and that's how he is. But clicking with Marcus Davis, runs the same offense at his school that Auburn runs. Essentially, we hear that all the time. I mean, isn't everybody kind of doing a lot of the same stuff? But so they've told him you'll fit in smoothly. So, we'll see. He's going to come back for spring practice. I mean, look, the guy's close enough where it's worth the effort, right? He's like not even 3 hours away. It's worth the effort. You put in the time. He keeps coming back. He likes it. He might feel comfortable. He might click with Walker White on a visit, and Lord, who knows, right? But they've got. Remember a few years ago, guys, when they didn't get any edge recruits that one year when Bert Watts was the edge coach.
Yeah.
And it didn't seem like there were a lot of backup plans, right? That was kind of the issue maybe for the last couple of years. There weren't the level of backup. There wasn't a number of backup plans like we used to see. Backup plans being solid options, like they're all jumbled together, right? And so now you're looking at Auburn, you look just even at the receiver board, and it feels like they've already got you guys just mentioned it, linebacker. There's a lot of good options already, right? I think that was there was a little devoid of that last few years, to be honest with you. A couple strikeouts, and next thing you know, it was names popping up we hadn't heard, right?
Yeah. Right.
So,
yes,
I think the net a little bit broad. They've cast a wider net this year, and Feels like it anyway.
Keith, correct me if I'm wrong. Was John Samuel Schenker from Colquitt County?
John Samuel Schenker, I believe, was from Colquitt County. He was a very good linebacker a few years ago that Auburn was in that went to Tennessee. I don't know if his career really took off, but there's always good players down there. And look, it's an area now. In the Georgia staff strong there, and Mike Bobo, who isn't an on-field coach right now, but he's in that program. He's from down there. Kirby Smart, I believe, is from originally Bainbridge. Okay, so which is in Bainbridge, Cairo, Americus, Moultrie, all these towns. So Georgia's got, there ain't a coach on the Auburn staff from that area other than, I would say, Wesley McGriff, who's from Tifton. So Georgia's really firmly, planted down there. But I feel like it's close enough where Auburn can make a dent. There's enough good players down there, right? From Brunswick, Savannah over and down, Charlton County, Brunswick, Savannah, Wilcox County. Auburn's recruiting the receiver there. Nick Marshall's old school and Desmond Tisdale's old school. They're recruiting B.J. Gibson. You got Cordele, Crisp County, which is where Montravius Adams and Big Cat were from. Now they went. Montravius played at Dooley County but lived in Cordele. Lee County, right outside of, it's all right in that same general 1 hour swath or 90-minute swath.
Who was the kid from Tift County from Auburn? I think his name was Christian. He was a DB.
From where? Jeffrey?
From Tift County. It was back in the Gus. He was Christian. He had a big fro.
Christian Tuck. Yeah, he was actually from out toward Augusta. He was from the school. They got the famous brick wall stadium that he was at. But and then here's another one, Thomaston, Georgia, where David Marshall, the former two-time Auburn commit, and still ended up signing with Georgia. Well, Will Muschamp's wife's from there. So you start looking at the connections of that Georgia staff from Thomaston down to the state line, down by Thomasville and Tallahassee, and it's pretty daunting. There's no question about that. But again, Jake Thornton knows Georgia. He's from Georgia. Wesley McGriff's from Tifton. So there's enough connections where Auburn and proximity. And not everybody can go to Georgia, and not everybody. But the challenge down there now, I think moving forward, isn't that you're just going to have Georgia coming from the north. FSU just won 10 games. You're going to have them coming in from the south, and that's kind of their turf too. But why can't Auburn be more successful down there? Cole, you're going to be there next week probably, and we're going to get a lot more on the ground there. But it feels like Auburn has a hell of a lot of potential there. Dawson, Georgia, where Trey Bishop was from, the one-time Auburn committed, flipped to Georgia. So much talent down there. So I feel like Auburn's going to have to get down in there. I don't think there's any question. They're going to have to figure out a way to get a couple guys down there every year. And Moultrie and Colquitt County High are a good place to start. They got JD Rim a year and a half ago out of Valdosta. So
You know what else comes out of Moultrie, Keith?
The Packers. They're the Packers. So what's that?
Oh, some good hunting apparel.
I was going to say,
really?
Look,
let me tell you something. I drove through the other day on the way back from Junior Day. They got a Starbucks. They got what are those? Tropical smoothie. Moultrie, Georgia's taking off, man.
So it must, because the only thing that was in Moultrie when I was in high school, they used to have the FAA convention there. We used to all go and sneak our Copenhagen back from.
Yeah, Moultrie, Keith, is one of the top hunting apparel accessories. I've got Moultrie Edge cameras, and there you go. Big hunting.
Dan Moultrie.
Is that his last
name?
Jeff,
when I was in Auburn a couple weeks ago, I snuck in a range session out at the Robert Trent Jones or Grand National, and I was leaving, and there was a deer. I sent y'all the video. It was right up next to my car. Now, I was talking to the deer, encouraging it and all that stuff. What would you have done? What would you?
I'd pull out my buck knife.
You're like the deer slayer over there.
No conversation, or would you have tried to ease its fears, lull it into a false sense of security, and then catch it? I know you like to catch yourself some deer.
Yeah. That deer's not scared of you.
No.
If he's coming out on the golf course, there's no hunting pressure back there. He's good, or she's good. Mm-hmm. Hey, we can't finish up without Jhead. I wanted to hear your assessment of Walker White, the four-star quarterback committed to Auburn.
Cole, I would love to get your thoughts as well. I know that you already kind of did a minor breakdown, but we can go a little more in depth here. But Walker White, let's talk about what he does well and maybe where he can improve. So you're talking about an absolute athlete at the quarterback position, a guy with a big frame. I think he's 6'3", 220 pounds. So he's already SEC ready from a frame standpoint. Got a very good arm. When you're watching quarterback highlight films, look, it's a combination of their best plays, right? So you got to be very careful about what it is that you're oohing and eyeing about. And so when I'm looking for things, I'm looking for velocity on the ball. I'm looking for, does he throw guys open from an accuracy standpoint? When you're looking at a passing window, is it a concept where he lets go of the ball before the receiver's even out of his break? You know what I mean? He's throwing open. Can he fit it into tight spaces, where only the receiver can get it? He does both of those. You can see it within the first, I think, 5 plays. There's a flag route where he puts it over the top of the defensive back and right on top of the receiver, and the guy is in the back hip of the receiver. I mean, in perfect position to make the play. He puts the ball not 25 yards downfield where only the receiver can get it. Same thing. The next play is a deep out route about 18 yards, which is one of the most difficult pass patterns to complete. I mean, that's absolute arm strength. Puts it on a frozen rope and puts it on him. Now, the things that concern you with Walker White, it's not the physical tools, but his accuracy. It was only, I think, about 55% last year, which is not great. But when you're looking at why he may have been inaccurate, largely it's his footwork, which is a very correctable thing from a technical standpoint. If he's on time and on balance on most of his throws, you're talking a completion. And really when he kind of gets off balance is when he gets off platform, and you see him start to, and a lot of quarterbacks are that way. When they get off platform, they start to roll out a little bit and their footwork's not exactly where it needs to be from a balance standpoint. And you can become slightly inaccurate where you're throwing a little higher, a little lower than where you want to be. But very impressive physical attributes. Obviously, the kid's well-spoken. He's mentally composed. I think he's got all the capabilities of what Hugh Freeze wants in a quarterback, and specifically that dual threat ability. So if the pocket does break down, he's got the potential to break one off, you know what I mean, and make you pay. And if you're emptying, if you're going to go man-to-man, that's a bad play against him, because if he breaks the line of scrimmage, you're talking about somebody that can take it to the house.
Are we talking like Bo Nix?
I would think Bo Nix with a stronger arm is how I would describe him right now. I think Bo might have been a little bit more complete as a passer at this point. You know what I mean? As far as overall understanding of the passing game, I think that Walker White has better physical tools and has a bigger frame than Bo. Bo was only about 6'1" in high school.
But this kid's as a runner.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Bo Nix are better?
I think he's Bo Nix or better. I think so. Now, I'll be interested to see. A lot of the metrics that they're using now that college coaches want to use, the old school metric was 40 time.
Yeah.
Now it's miles per hour, because they want to see how quickly you can get to your top end, how long you can sustain it, what you're like coming out of your break. I'll be interested to see if they put any of that catapult gear on him and test him out to see what his mile per hour top end speed is. And I know, Cole, you know all about that, my man. What was that?
Keith has got a speeding ticket.
I know Cole wanted to break down his recruitment, but can I say one thing about it? Were you done, Jhead?
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead, Keith.
So, Jeffrey, and I've been giving Hugh Freeze so much credit for this commitment, right? But here's what I realized. I doubt Freeze was recruiting Walker White at Liberty and Ken Austin. They probably, I don't know, maybe they were, but they probably knew that they weren't, like this guy's getting. So to me, it said this was a guy that when Philip Montgomery, I almost said Philip Marshall, when Philip Montgomery was at Tulsa, he offered Walker White 2 years ago. To me, this says, so in other words, that was his guy early on. He's been tracking him forever. Now, he probably knew I'm not going to get this guy at Tulsa once he blew up, but he continued to track him. And it tells me, it seems to me that this is Hugh Freeze telling Philip Montgomery, giving him a lot of, how do I say this? A lot of trust in his evaluation. I'm sure he did his own, and I'm sure Kent Austin, the special assistant to Freeze, who was the OC and QB coach at Liberty, obviously they did some input too, but it really makes me think that that Hugh's ready to kind of be that coach that pulls back a little bit and gives his OC some freedom and flexibility to go to, yeah, this is my guy. I've been recruiting him for 2 years. I think he's right for Auburn. Okay, let's take a look. Okay, we took a look. We agree. Let's go get him. And I think you have to get a guy like Philip Montgomery to be OC, who probably could have gone to a lot of schools. You think Miami would like to have him right now? You know? And so I feel like that was I don't know. I know what I'm trying to say. I hope the words are coming out okay here, but it seems like Philip Montgomery, who I barely mentioned in all those commitment stories about Walker White, it seems like he's this is his guy. This is his guy. So that, and obviously he's got a pretty damn good track record with quarterbacks. So
that's a good absolutely point. And I tell you what, I read a story the other day where Philip Montgomery actually had that kid at Tulsa, got him on an unofficial visit to Tulsa 2 years ago. Look, kids of that caliber, they don't go visit Tulsa. You know what I mean? Like they're going to Power 5 schools. So I think you're right, Keith. I think the relationship, this was the bridge piece that we needed to get in, and then Hugh Freeze and everybody else, the rest of the staff closed this deal.
Well, just the trust factor, just the trust factor with Freeze to say, look, you're my OC, you're my QB. You know, I believe in your evaluations. You know what I mean? You know what you're doing, and you know, so it's going to be, you know, we're thinking about who Hugh Freeze wants down the road. It may be who Philip Montgomery wants. You know.
It, almost like Hugh Freeze said, is this the guy you want? Then let's go get him.
Yeah. And you got to have that. Yeah, I mean, I love Gus. You guys know that. My love for Gus never ends, but I don't know that he would be the guy. Maybe. I don't know. Maybe with Rhett, he did have some flexibility, but you get the feeling at the end of the day, it was gonna be Gus's call, not anybody else's. You know what I mean?
Yep. Definitely.
So anyway.
All right. Cole, you want to add something in there?
Yeah, I'll add just a couple comparisons I've tried to come up with for Walker White that come to mind. Sam Ehlinger that played at Texas is sort of similar to me.
Yeah.
Maybe even, I don't know, Sean Clifford from Penn State, the way he was playing this past year or so, just the ability, he added the running ability to his game, and they have similar throwing styles. And I'm not comparing him to Tim Tebow at all, but if you go back and you watch Tim Tebow early on, he muscled throws, meaning he didn't have that complete throwing motion down, and he eventually got it. And people even made fun of him later, like his throwing motion's so long. Well, that's because he worked on it and he tried to get it to a place where he could change trajectory on his throws and get touch on his throws, where he wasn't doing that early in his career. To me, Walker White's at a place right now where he doesn't have that full motion. He's just strong. He's just a big, strong, burly guy who can kind of strong arm a throw into a tight window. He can strong arm a throw over deep, you know, and his accuracy struggles sometimes because he hasn't completed that mechanic. And that's something that maybe Philip Montgomery has said, oh, we can get you that. We can fix that. You know, we can get that fixed where you will be much more accurate. Instead of just trying to use your power, you can use technique with it. And that's why they think he's such a good prospect.
Well, and you can bet he'll be at Auburn for one of those 3 or 4 day powwows in June where he's helping with visits, where he's getting a throw every day at camp. You know, he may be a different guy in 6 months in terms of mechanics. We'll see.
Yeah. And that's an interesting point, Keith. What you just mentioned was the peer recruiting angle, and that's how I was going to kind of end this off. How big is that? Now, look, we've seen some really good peer recruiters from an Auburn class in the past. Damari Alston comes to mind.
Yep.
But from the quarterback position, I think this kid is going to be massive for us, not just because of his skill set and what he's going to do, but the kids he's going to reach out to. And you're already seeing it from the receiver end. But how do you guys feel on that as far as, you know, a quarterback being kind of the pivot piece for you from a peer recruiting standpoint?
It's huge.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Go ahead, Cole.
No, it's huge. I think it's huge. You got to have it. I think you can't go on without it.
You know, Bo Nix was sort of a great kid, but introverted more. Would you agree, Jeffrey? You and I probably talked to him the most. You know, I don't think he was a guy. I don't know that he was a guy that other recruits gravitated toward. They all knew who he was and they liked him. That's not. Sean White was a guy more guys gravitated to. He was one of the boys, but he was also from Florida. So the kids in Georgia and Alabama and Tennessee and Mississippi, they didn't really know about him too much. But this guy, they all seem to know about. And that plan of him putting out all those names the other day allowed Hugh Freeze to send that out to all their big targets. Hey, look, I got a quarterback.
Do you think? I almost wonder. Do you think Auburn coaches were like, or do you think they wanted that out there?
I think they wanted.
I think that was their plan. If I had to guess, what do you so Jeff, you don't think they wanted that out there?
I mean, here's a list of guys we want, right?
Yeah.
But to read it off on your commitment,
I think they don't. I don't know that Hugh cares that. You know what? You guys know this. Jeffrey and I sat together out in front of the athletic complex for years and years and years and got to know more about each other than we probably ever wanted. But one of the things we always would say is, this is in Middle Tennessee State. This is Auburn. Why are they so scared sometimes about letting people know who they're going after? And Hugh Freeze doesn't seem to give a shit, quite frankly. Yeah. He's not scared that anybody knows that he's going after these Georgia. He, in fact, wants Georgia to know that he's coming after Nycar.
That might be my Gus or Harson going. We don't want to hurt somebody else's feelings if we don't name them.
Yeah,
and that's kind of how how it was before. And so for this guy to come out and say, these are, here's who we want. If you're not on the list, we're not saying we don't want you, but we're not afraid to hurt your feelings by saying these are our top
I will tell
dogs.
you from Keith's story on Cam Coleman, where Hugh Freeze calls Coleman. He said, I haven't talked to Freeze, period. And I'm on the phone with Marcus Davis, and Freeze sends me a text and says, hey, I just got a quarterback commitment for you. He just named you in this press conference. We want you here at Auburn. I think that was 100% planned, and that's coming directly from Keith's story. I mean, I'm paraphrasing here, but they wanted that out there. They're calling their shot.
But people are asking about my red herring theory on the board, maybe floating a name or two out there just to a little misdirection. Well, they didn't mention Jamarian Burnett. Cole's nodding here. They didn't mention Walker White. Did not mention the running back Jamarian Burnett from Andalusia, who through Cole's reporting and Jeff's reporting, I think, is that Auburn would certainly take him, and he may be closing in on a decision. So even that may have been strategic. Hey, here are two running backs I want. Doesn't mention Burnett. Gets Burnett thinking, wait a second, are there guys higher on the board than me? What if I want in? Maybe I better figure some things out soon. So I think I have a feeling that Hughes. I could be totally wrong here. I just have a feeling he's maybe thinking a step ahead of people like me.
Yeah, me
maybe
too.
2 steps ahead. Well, maybe three or four steps ahead of us. I don't know. Now maybe I'm giving him too much credit. I don't know. But we'll see. But I mean, it sure seems strategic in a lot of ways to me that Walker White's top 14, because there were some guys we know are huge targets that weren't mentioned, and then other guys we didn't know were huge targets that were mentioned. So what does it all mean? We'll figure it out in about 9 months, I guess.
I think Hugh Freeze has maybe just a touch of a flair for the dramatics, because a lot of the recruits that have been in his office and sat down with him, he usually starts the conversation or at least throws in there, hey, I beat Nick Saban twice, right? I did that. Yeah. I just wanted I want to make sure I was the head coach when that happened.
Yeah.
And it sounds cocky, I guess, but it's for these recruits, man, they love to hear that kind of stuff. They really do. And he understands that. He knows what they want to hear.
You know what I learned? You make a great point, Cole. I actually recently heard Brent Venables, the Oklahoma coach, make just a 30-second pitch to an offensive lineman, because they have limited conversations. And he said the first thing out of his mouth was, Oklahoma's had the most offensive linemen drafted in the last blah, blah, blah. That was it. He went right to that. And so that speaks to what you're saying about Hugh Freeze. I mean, know what you are, know what you have, know what you can sell, and he'd get right to it, Yeah. Because they're gonna. What do they say when you're in class in college? You're gonna remember in a lecture, a 30-minute lecture. You're probably gonna remember the first thing and the last thing, and forget everything else in the middle. At least Jeffrey and me did in college. That's for damn sure.
Think back a year ago to James Smith, the 5-star top 10 overall player in the country. What did he say he needed to see from Auburn?
Beat Bama. Period.
Yep.
So what does Hugh Freeze say?
He told me that day. He
beat him.
James had a very serious look. He told me that at Madhouse Fitness one day. I said, what would it take because I'd asked him a few questions already. We'd had a couple interviews. I was kind of to the point where, all right, let's get real here. Does Auburn have a shot? What would it take to get you to Auburn? He said, they got to be back to the old Auburn. I said, what is the old Auburn? Beating Bama. I said, so you
he loved the way Auburn played back in the late 80s. James Smith, you know.
And what made me think
every night watching
the days when they were fearing the thumb and whatnot. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Well, huge Terry Beasley fan, James Smith, man. I mean, he was
the history of Auburn, you know, especially with Tommy Tuberville went 6 in a row.
Yeah,
Even though that was before these guys' time, that's what they hear a lot about Auburn when they go, and that's the big history. That's part of the big history. And recent years, the years that they've gotten to watch, haven't lived up to that.
I'm just picturing Tuberville winning 6 straight. I'm going off track here. 6 straight over Bama, and Jhead walking into the local, you know, McDonald's, you know, in Montgomery with his satin Auburn jacket, strutting around like a peacock in heat. You know what I mean?
Bro,
fear the index finger.
No doubt. Listen, that fear the thumb T-shirt. I think I probably wore that thing out.
I still have one.
Fear the thumb was when they had 4.
Oh yeah, fear the thumb was when they had 4.
They did fear the other thumb.
Yes. Yeah.
Which was good, I thought.
I agree.
Hey, real quick before we get to some how batches, we'll wrap it up. But I wanted to go back to the peer recruiting, and maybe I just don't follow a lot of Bama or Georgia recruits on Twitter. But do other schools rely as heavily on peer recruiting as Auburn does with Braden Joyner, with Damari Austin, with Walker White? Do other schools like Georgia, Alabama, LSU, Florida, Tennessee, whoever else,
Yeah, they do.
Okay.
And look, I'll give you a very tangible one for Auburn fans. Back during the COVID era, so Brock Vandergrift, massive peer recruiter for that class.
Okay, you're right.
In fact, he was like even hosting recruit parties because the coaches couldn't visit with him, and taking them through on-campus visits over at UGA. And you know,
you're right. That's right. I remember Brock. I did follow Brock because his grandparents are from Woodland.
Absolutely.
So, Brock comes to Woodland to hunt. So,
Okay.
So yes, I do remember that. So yes.
Now,
once
I don't
the
think
kid
they have
commits
to
to Alabama or Georgia, I typically unfollow them.
Yeah, well, of course. Why would you continue to follow at that point? You know what I mean?
You know, I block them. What are you talking about? Unfollow. Are you kidding me?
The soft block.
All right, folks. Let's wrap it up with some how about yous. I've got some good ones this week. Not as many. My quality is better than my quantity this week. Anybody else want to throw in some how about yous this week?
How about you, Cole Pinkston, man? Because the work he been on the road this week.
He's been killing it, man.
He has went from Disney World to Mentone and every place in Alabama in between to get you guys some recruiting scoops. So I'm gonna how about you, my boy Cole?
I got all of that scoop from Mentone. Actually, I know that's hard to believe, but I mean, there's a lot of recruits in Mentone, Alabama, man.
Oh, yeah. I bet there are. I bet you see him at the 5 and Dime at every gas station, my man.
No doubt.
Jhead has got. I'm gonna do Cole times 2, but Cole, you got any?
Yeah, Mandingo Warrior.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I like his football knowledge, man. I think he played a little ball, and I like.
He's
fantastic.
I think he coaches. Actually, I think he's a high school coach. I believe
he acts like he knows a little bit about some football there, so I like him. I like him a lot.
All right, Mandingo. Keith.
Yeah, I gotta make sure I read this right. It's C-Rob 90.
Oh yeah,
okay?
He was on here last time.
Yeah, we got the Jordan LeBron debate going on. First of all, if I was starting an NBA team, I probably wouldn't take either one first. I'd probably pick Kareem. But so in the debate, he says of LeBron James, broke the scoring record and lost at home. That's all you need to know about the Michael Jordan LeBron debate. MJ is and always will be the greatest of all time. Tend to agree
100%.
with that. But that was a fun thread. That's why we love message boards. Like the 4 of us being in a sports bar, throwing back some beers and just talking sports and arguing. That's the essence of the message board right there. So C-Rob, good post.
Yeah, I thought it's very insulting to even mention those 2 players in the same sentence. I'm sorry.
One guy.
Agreed, Jeffrey.
You went that far with it.
Listen, LeBron is in the discussion for top 5.
Yes.
Okay. And he's not in my top 5. He's in the discussion now. Dude, when you watched Michael Jordan, you knew you were watching the greatest of all time. You just knew it. Look, I take Larry Legend over LeBron. Dude, you go watch Larry Bird.
Yeah,
I would too.
The funny, when we were kids, Jeff, though, it was the kind of white versus black, Larry versus Magic. And then I watched a YouTube video a few weeks ago, and it was all the great black players from that era saying, yeah, Larry was better.
Look, my favorite Bird story, period, is Bird is playing Barkley. You know what I mean? And they said Bird is like sulking and like talking underneath his breath. And Charles is like, Larry, what is wrong with you? He's like, how y'all going to disrespect me, man? He's like, what do you mean disrespect me? He's like, you going to put that white guy on me? You can't let a brother guard me, man. You know what I mean?
Listen, I'll say, and I just think and listen, you ask Michael Jordan if he's the greatest all time, he's going to defer it. Like, you ask LeBron, LeBron is gosh. Don't bring that shit to here.
LeBron. I don't dislike LeBron like a lot of people do. He's a fantastic player. He seems like an okay guy to me. I think a couple problems. One, he makes things look so easy that it's hard to appreciate how great he is because it's kind of sort of effortless. But the thing that a lot of us will never forget was I'm taking my talents to Miami, and that was kind of that douche moment.
Boy,
that nobody will ever. That people have been holding that against him for years, and rightfully so. Quite frankly, still a great player though.
He started that, by the way, because a lot of recruits do that now. I'm taking my talents too. That's like Iverson with the practice thing. Like you started something with these kids. Like they saw it and they thought you were a role model, and now they use it and it's really not cool. Like that was not a good move.
Greatest clip of all time. We're talking about practice, dog, not the game. Practice. But
hey, where does Barkley rank in the top 25? Real quick, I'm curious.
He's in my top 10. He's in my top 10 of all-time greatest players. Now look, my top 5. Go ahead.
I would say top 20.
When Barkley was on it in that MVP season for the Suns, dude. I mean, look, he invented the stretch 4 before there was a stretch 4.
You're right. He hits.
Did y'all see that interview with him where there's like, so you went to Auburn, Charles, what'd you major in? He goes, rebounding. He said, oh, okay.
Keith, would you have Dennis Rodman ahead of Charles Barkley?
No. Barkley was a great player. I saw him play in college a few times. In fact, down in Gainesville, I'm lucky, man. I'm telling you, I miss my dad so much, but I was lucky to have the guy that would say, we had basketball season tickets. We couldn't afford football season tickets because you had to do the premium extra stuff, But we could get basketball. Yeah, because when we started getting basketball season tickets, they sucked so bad they won 5 games the first year. Well, then they started getting decent, and he said he would want to go see Barkley. He would want to go see Dale Ellis. He knew the guys that he wanted me to see. And we were very lucky to see Barkley wearing the short shorts and barely getting up and down the floor. And I noticed this in the pros. Years later, I went and saw him play for the Suns. He would just kind of coast along, and then he'd say, all right, I'm taking over. It was that running back that's in second gear, and then all of a sudden is in fifth gear and has just gone right by you. And that was Barkley on the basketball court. He would go end to end. He could get a lot of rebounds. He had a lot of great duels with a guy named Eugene the Dunking Machine McDowell, who was UF's great center at the time. Remember, Barkley played center.
At 6'4".
That's right. I love Barkley. I'd say top 25 greatest players of all time. Because if you start looking at, if you just go position by position, as center, Chamberlain, Russell, Kareem, Shaq, Wilt Chamberlain, and I said Chamberlain twice probably. So then that's just 5 or 6 guys right there. And then you go position by position. But yeah, absolute freak, Barkley, no doubt.
I think I'll have a board post after this.
Top 5 power forward, but top 5 players all time. It's MJ at the top, and it's not even close.
Yeah.
Number 2, it's the Black Mamba and Kobe Bryant.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Yeah. It 100% is, Keith. But
I'm with you, Jhead. I'm with you.
Number 3, I got to go LeBron because of the physical skill set and what he can do. Number 4 is Magic. Number 5 is Bird. Okay. And that's my top 5. And look, anybody, and this is modern era, okay? I'm not talking about, back in the day. I don't want to hear about Kareem, even though he played to 19.
Yeah, you mean when he was 40 years old, still dominating 22-year-olds? You don't want to hear about that guy?
Yeah. Kareem got more whistles than anybody, bro. He was making his money at the foul line. I don't even want to
talk about a guy. You talk about a guy that changed the game. You said Barkley changed the game. Kareem changed the game. Nobody changed the game more than Kareem.
That skyhook was legit.
Kareem was still around in the mid 80s, right? I remember growing
late
up.
80s. He was 88, 89 championship team.
So let's take it from 90 for the past 30
or was it
years.
87, 88? Yeah, 80.
Past 30 years, I think Jay has got it. Right. Was there anybody in there that didn't play in the 90s?
I mean, I'd throw Shaq in the top 5 personally.
I wouldn't argue it. I'm fine with
that. I can't put Shaq in my top 5, man, just because he's.
Well, I guess that would start the debate. Is he the best Laker because you had Magic Johnson in there?
Tim Duncan, get the hell out of here, Zach in the back.
I don't even want to hear about the big fundamental.
Zach in the back came in our chat and said, "Put some."
Well, the best Lakers actually a harder one maybe than the best of all time because you've got Mikan was George Mikan was the best early era player. Elgin Baylor, who our daddies and granddaddies would say was the best player they ever saw. Elgin Baylor, you don't even hear about him anymore. Jerry West Chamberlain doesn't really count. He was only at the Lakers his last few years. Kareem got to the Lakers and replaced Wilt. So Kareem would be up there. Magic would be up there. Kobe would be up there. Yeah.
Put some respect on my boy Kurt Rambis.
Oh,
Rambis was a very good player. No doubt about it. They don't win. He was their Dennis Rodman, basically.
Derek Fisher.
What about him?
Yeah.
He's a top 100 Laker. Yeah, sure.
I like him.
Are you kidding me?
I think, listen, honestly, Kobe's got 5 rings. Nobody else has that many as a Laker. I think you got to give it to the Mamba. I know you don't love him, but you got to give it to Kobe.
I mean, Kareem and Magic, they won 5.
Did they win? I thought they only won 4.
They won in 80, 80. Oh, wait a second. Oh, wow, you may be right. Holy hold on a second here.
I thought you were a Dodgers guy, not a Lakers guy.
I like all the LA teams.
I was a Spurs fan. I was a big Spurs fan growing up. So
I would. What is that?
Tim Duncan.
I think they would have had 5 if they beat Chicago.
Jeff, you were a Celtics fan?
Atlanta, baby.
Hey. My man, back in the day when you had yes, sir, and Spud Webb.
Dominique was so good they went to the Final Four the year after he left at Georgia.
Look at that. The hate is strong, man. Zach, this is great podcasting, by the way, man.
No, the Lakers won in 82 as well. So 80, 82. Yeah, I got to make sure. 80, 82, 85, 86. No, wait a second. 85, 87, 88. So 5 championships. But Dominique was that may be the best college player I ever saw.
5.
Yeah, 5. Well, hey, look, one of these days we'll do a.
Dude, you just named 4 years.
No, 80, 82, 85, 87, 88.
Okay. I got you.
One of these days, here's we got to go. I know, but one of these days, I thought this would be a good topic for the board. Name the best starting 5 at each SEC school. And who's got the best team? You think it'd be Kentucky? Might be LSU, guys. Might be LSU.
Listen, LSU back because, look, Shaq, my man Chris Jackson, who went by a different name in the NBA.
Muhammad.
Yeah.
John Hot Plate Williams.
Okay. What about who's the big kid that was the center for the Orlando Magic for years was Shaq's counterpart?
Stanley Roberts.
Yeah, Stanley Roberts. You got Stromile Swift.
But guess what? And Jeff would know this. The greatest Hawk player of all time. Is it Dominique or is it Bob Pettit, LSU grad? So, LSU, man, I'm telling you, man, they would be up there.
Look at Auburn.
And
you just would be fantastic.
Well, your greatest Atlanta Hawk as well as your greatest LSU Tiger. Come on, guys. Pistol Pete.
Oh.
Hands down.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, there you go. But Pistol Pete, so there's your LSU team. Bob Pettit at power forward, Shaq at center, Pistol Pete at shooting guard, Chris Jackson at point guard, I don't know who your 3 is. At this point, who gives a shit?
Look at Auburn's front court.
know?
Look at Auburn's front court with Walker, Charles Barkley, Jabari. Walker, Jabari, Charles Barkley. I mean, Chris Morris was.
Who's your point guard? Who's your great Auburn point guard?
Just as a Doc Sharif. Oh, Sharif, I guess.
Jared Harper.
But
you're saying all time? Does that?
Oh, no.
This is my lifetime. This is from 80 on.
Who's the boy from the 80s that played on all of Sonny's teams? I'm trying to think. He was
Frank Ford.
That's exactly who it would be.
Was that Frank Six-Finger Ford?
No, that was Frankie Ford from Red Level, Alabama. My part of the world, man.
Which one of the Johnsons played at Auburn?
Who?
Eddie Johnson.
Maybe.
Auburn's wouldn't be bad, but I don't think it'd be comparable. I don't think you got Barkley, but I don't know if overall it would be comparable to like an LSU or Kentucky.
And look, now he didn't do anything in the NBA, but my man Chris Porter coming off the bench, splitting a wig every other 5 seconds. Listen.
Y'all want to know another one that would be pretty good? Tennessee. Okay. Because I would say you got Bernard King, guys. You ever heard of him?
Yeah.
Chuma.
Bernard King. Chuma's great, but Bernard King was maybe the great, during a 5-year window in the 80s was the best scorer in the NBA. So, I mean, it's Tennessee would be a good one.
You could take Auburn's 5, and I would put them up against anybody. I'm not saying they would win the best out of 7, but they surely wouldn't get skunked.
No, because you put some of Sonny's teams together with a handful of Cliff's players and then what Bruce has brought to campus, that's a stacked team, man.
Just looking at that LSU. But anyway, another conversation for another day.
Battery's about to go to death. So let's all right. Hey, Keith, how about you for C-Rob 90?
You got some now.
15-minute rant about how poorly LeBron James is viewed. John Claude Wardam. How about you, John Claude Wardam? How about you to Osman 12? How about you to Chemo Sabi? How about you to Wardam 23? Big how about you this week to Jhead Designs, man.
Oh,
yeah. Big how about you to Jhead Designs, man. Awesome poster. Great intel, and we appreciate the contributions he does and has for our site. We absolutely big how about you to Jhead Designs. Hey, we're going to wrap it up there, folks. We'll be back next week talking about everything that we can figure out. We appreciate everybody listening. We appreciate everybody watching. For Jhead, for Keith, for Cole, for Zach in the back, I'm Jeffrey Lee. Man, y'all stay out of that left lane. See ya.